In the spring of 1865, Confederate soldiers buried $500,000 in gold deep in the Florida Everglades. No one has ever found it. This is what happened. When most people think about the fall of the Confederacy, they picture Appomattox Courthouse, Lee handing over his sword, soldiers stacking their rifles. What they don't picture is the frantic, desperate flight south, a convoy of gold, silver, and bullion racing through the collapsing southern states, shedding treasure at every stop like a wounded animal leaving a blood trail. And that trail leads somewhere most historians don't bother to look. It leads deep into the swamps of Florida. Let's start where it all began. April 2nd, 1865. Jefferson Davis sits in a pew at St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Richmond, Virginia, when a messenger hands him a note from General Robert E. Lee. The message is blunt: get out now. Lee tells Davis he has until 8 o'clock that evening to load the gold, the valuables, and whatever is left of the Confederate government onto 2 trains heading south on the last open rail line between Richmond and Danville, Virginia. The first train carries the officials. The second train carries what everyone simply calls the special cargo. What was this special cargo? Gold ingots, gold double eagle coins, silver bricks, Mexican silver dollars, silver coins of every denomination. Confederate Treasury Secretary Trenholm had overseen the evacuation of what Confederate Navy Captain William H. Parker later estimated to be about $500,000 in gold, silver, and bullion from the Dahlonega Mint and other Confederate repositories. Parker takes command of this treasure train. He scrapes together the only military personnel available to guard it, a company of young naval midshipmen. Teenagers, essentially, protecting what, adjusted for inflation, would be over $11 million today. Some historians believe the actual figure was significantly higher. Here's where the story fractures. As the Confederate government collapses over the following weeks, the treasure begins to disappear piece by piece. Some of it gets dispersed as payroll to retreating Confederate troops. Some of it gets divided among soldiers and civilians at a plantation called Cottonwood near Gainesville, Florida, owned by Senator David Levi Yulee, the father of Florida's railroads and the first Jewish person ever elected to the United States Senate. At Cottonwood, the remaining guards split the money among themselves. Each soldier receives 400 gold sovereigns worth about $1,900 in 1865 money, plus $55 in travel expenses. Civilians and even 5 black servants each receive $975 in gold. Local legend holds that at least one of those soldiers buried his share at Cottonwood, planning to come back for it after things settled down. He never did. He died before he could return. And for decades, treasure hunters have torn through that property looking for what he left behind. One group spent 2 years searching the old plantation. Here is the remarkable thing. They actually found the empty holes where treasure had been buried in May of 1865 and later removed. Someone had already beaten them to it. But Cottonwood is just one chapter. The real mystery lies further south, in the vast trackless wilderness of the Florida Everglades. Consider what happened 30 miles south. The story of Captain John Riley, born John Riley Bless McIntosh, a Confederate blockade runner who had spent the war moving supplies through the port at Punta Rassa, Florida. In the spring of 1865, Riley was attempting to ship Confederate gold to Havana, Cuba, when Federal troops spotted him and gave chase. Riley fled into the Everglades, and somewhere in what is now west-central Broward County, he buried $500,000 in gold bullion. He never recovered it. Then there's the Confederate paymaster. Pursued by Union soldiers as the war ended, this unnamed officer was carrying a staggering $1 million payroll, $200,000 in gold coins, and the rest in paper currency. As the Federals closed in, he and his men buried the entire sum somewhere in the Everglades at the junction of two creeks, where the land, as he wrote in his records, rises like a camel's back. The money, he noted, was buried in the west hump of the rise. The general area is believed to be somewhere between Alligator Alley and State Road 41 on the Seminole Indian Reservation. And then there is the story that ties into one of the Civil War's most secretive organizations, the Knights of the Golden Circle. In 1862, Confederate Major Thomas Reynolds was on the run from Union troops tasked with transporting gold coins to a secret location for eventual shipment to European banks. Some treasure experts believe that Reynolds buried a chest of Knights of the Golden Circle gold somewhere in the Everglades, roughly 30 miles west of Fort Lauderdale. This might sound like pure folklore, except for what happened in 1949. A man named Hully Sterling was giving flying lessons out of Fort Lauderdale when he spotted something impossible from the air. Royal poinciana trees growing in the middle of the Everglades. Those trees are not native to the region. Flying lower, he saw the remnants of old cabins. It took him 3 days by airboat to reach the site, and when he did, he found Confederate items stamped CSA scattered among the ruins, rifles, canteens, bullet molds, and other military equipment. This site became known as the Lost City, a mysterious 3-acre plot about 8 miles south of Alligator Alley. It is listed as an archaeological site in the Florida State Archives. Over the decades, state wildlife officials and archaeologists have found rotted shacks, a canoe, Native American artifacts, and a large iron kettle once used to distill sugar cane into alcohol. Some say it was a large Seminole village that was abandoned. Others claim 30 to 40 Confederate soldiers used it as a hideout and were killed by Seminole Indians. And of course, there are those who believe it was a hiding place for Confederate gold. Al Capone allegedly used the site to produce moonshine during Prohibition. The Ashley Gang, a band of outlaws who robbed nearly $1 million from over 40 banks between 1915 and 1924, reportedly buried $110,000 somewhere near the southern end of Lake Okeechobee. Only $32,000 of the gang's fortune was ever recovered. The Everglades swallowed the rest. As the historian William Rawlings put it, every legend that has any long-term staying power has a modicum of truth in it, and certainly this one does. But here's the cruel irony. Even if all of this gold is still out there, rotting in waterproof chests beneath sawgrass and cypress roots, you almost certainly cannot go get it. The creek location from the paymaster's story sits inside the Florida Everglades National Park. Park rangers will arrest anyone caught searching and charge them with a felony. They will seize your boat and your truck. And the Camelback Rise? That is likely on Seminole land, and the Seminole Nation does not take kindly to trespassers. As one treasure hunter put it bluntly online, they do not have to answer to the government if something happens to someone on their land. In 1867, Congress passed the Abandoned and Captured Property Act, declaring all Confederate Treasury money the property of the United States government. So even if you found it, it would not be yours. And yet people still look. They still fly over the Everglades in small planes, scanning for trees that should not be there. They still pore over old maps and Confederate paymaster records. They still dream about the west hump of a camel's back, somewhere in a swamp that stretches across more than 1 million acres. When Jefferson Davis was finally captured on May 10, 1865 in Irwinville, Georgia, he had nothing on him. The treasure was gone, scattered, buried, divided, stolen, lost. Some of it was accounted for, most of it was not. And the Everglades, as they always have, keep their secrets. The Everglades are not the only place the Confederacy left its gold behind. While soldiers were burying coins in Florida swamps, an even larger fortune, $140 million, was quietly sinking to the bottom of a lake. That story is next.